Retire Plugged In newsletter number 3. The Retirement Force number 2. Money won't fix this in retirement. Planning well doesn't mean being ready, by Nora Hartquist. The real truth about retirement. In our very first issue, number 1, we talked about the 3 forces that have radically changed your retirement window. Issue number 2 went into depth on the first force, economic cycles. Your retirement window, ages 55 to 70 for most, falls into an economic cycle you didn't create, which can radically change your retirement's financial success. If you missed issue number 2, I'd go back and grab it. It's time to address force number 2, social dynamics in retirement. Today's window of time for your retirement has those 3 forces, including a social dynamic you probably didn't plan for. We don't tend to sit down and dwell on how the world has changed over our lifetime and how it will affect our retirement. Of course, you didn't create nor anticipate this tremendous change in social dynamics, nor the requisite change of your social dynamic from work life to retirement. Let's address the social dynamic change in retirement first. You were warned about saving enough, preparing for healthcare crises, creating a social security strategy to get the most out of it. You planned for the numbers. They never told you to plan for the moment when the alarm clock stops ringing. Sure, you didn't want to get up and go to work, but when you got there, you not only worked, you socialized with your friends, talked about the weekend, your family, your plans for the future, maybe what broke down at the house. Compared notes about your families or how boss just doesn't get it. Now you can sleep in all you want, but when you get up, what's the routine? Who do you banter with besides your spouse, if you have one? We look forward to freedom. But work wasn't just a place we had to be and a paycheck. It was structure. There was a plan for the day, even if it wasn't your plan. That gave our brain certainty. It was identity. You would gladly tell people you met, I'm a technical analyst, a teacher, or a plumber, fill in the blank. They knew immediately that you were accomplished in something. It was purpose. You had something to accomplish every day, and you felt fulfilled if the day went right. It was proof that you mattered every day. Unfortunately, when all that disappears, our mind doesn't quickly adjust to it. In fact, our minds often panic after the initial euphoria of not having to work. Why? Our social dynamic is drastically altered overnight. Oh, sure, at first we feel like we're finally on that long vacation we so richly deserve. Can you vacation for the next 30 years, virtually alone, and be happy? Without the structure, identity, purpose, and social interaction work provided, many retirees say the same thing in very hushed voices. I didn't expect to feel so useless. I thought I'd be happier. I don't know who I am anymore. And this takes a toll on your most important relationships as they notice a shorter temper and constant criticism, though you're just imparting your wisdom to someone who has to listen. We see it every day in our practice. Marriages that have survived decades of work stress crack under retirement. Not because of too much distance, but too much unstructured togetherness, relying on one person to fulfill their emotional needs because of their new social dynamic in retirement. Led by baby boomers, divorce rates climb for America's 50-plus population. The divorce rate for adults ages 50 and older has roughly doubled in the last 25 years. One couple with 6 decades of marriage has weathered all the stresses of raising a family, work, and more. Now the husband has moved out to his own apartment where he's making a new circle of friends and wants nothing to do with his wife. He's creating a new social dynamic, but leaving her devastated and their grown children worried about how to support 2 households in retirement, which they can't. We had another couple who divorced, but he still does all her work and maintenance on her home, handles her bank account, but he wanted a new social dynamic, not necessarily a new wife. Adult children feel it too. They see the parents who used to be confident now second guessing everything, and we see it in our practice. Often, confidence in decisions decreases dramatically in retirement, and they want to call in their grown children who don't have a clue to help them make a decision. Then family dynamics come into play. We receive phone calls from grown children asking questions we're not allowed to answer, accusing their siblings of undue influence over their parents. What is the cause of all these problems? Isolation, the new retirement social dynamic. It used to be that our coworkers lived down the street. Even if we didn't see them at work, we could still have a relationship. Not so much anymore. Our friends were still around when we retired before. Now, many of the friends we've made have been left behind in another place or another state when we moved for a better paying job, better weather, or a lower cost of living. You are not told to prepare to replace purpose, rebuild your identity, structure meaning in your new life, and take on challenges to stay mentally sharp. And that in time, you will grieve the life you're leaving behind. But what about family? Don't we look forward to spending more time with our family now that we're retired? We'll have time to spend with our grown children and really get to know those precious grandchildren, won't we? But will they have time to spend with you? My grown daughter is a flight attendant. She lives across country from me, but it's almost impossible to plan visits as she could be called away for a flight schedule that lasts 2 to 3 days. You'd think she could make her own schedule. After all, she's been a flight attendant for 30 years, but she still doesn't have seniority. So we adjust. When she flies through our nation's capital, I meet her for lunch or dinner, and if we can visit, the grandchildren are no longer at home. One lives in another state, trying to survive as a gymnastics coach. She was first place in Arizona gymnastics for several years and was invited to train with the Olympics team, but that was not her goal. She graduated from college in political science, but has not been able to secure a job in that field. My grandson moved from Tucson to Phoenix for a better accountant's job in a larger city. And her youngest is attending Arizona State and living on campus because he secured a basketball scholarship that requires him to serve as an assistant coach. Does any of this sound somewhat familiar? If we've done a good job raising our children, they're busy living their own lives. Of course, that was certainly our charge and our goal as parents to raise self-sufficient adults who can raise their own families. But now that we have more time for them, they may not have the time for us. Not because they don't love us, but because life gets in the way. Years ago, we prioritized family and didn't let life get in the way. Why does that happen now? The new social dynamic and the economics of today affect our grown children too. I don't envy them trying to raise children in a world with rising inflation, internet scams, social media, and drugs everywhere. Not to mention fears of losing their job to AI, companies having no loyalty to employees, and fearing they can't secure their future because almost no pensions exist if you don't work for the federal government. If you're thinking about moving close to your grown children in anticipation of getting their help if you become incapacitated, have you considered the possibilities? One of our clients moved to be close to their son, who vowed to be there for them until he was required to move for his job. They were left stranded in a place where they knew no one, had no friends. They couldn't afford to move back to where they left. We've seen that more than once. You remember when you took care of your parents as they aged and declined? You may have moved close to them, giving up your precious home to take care of them. Or maybe you added a little suite to your home to move them into. Maybe you're doing it now. My mom and dad, as my dad approached 75, He became more and more confused about taking meds and even what was on TV. My mom's eyesight got to the point of being technically blind from macular degeneration by the time she was only 65. Dad was put into a quote nursing home and he hated it. My mom couldn't drive to visit without my help. I was a divorcee, young single mom with 3 children in elementary school, but I managed to get mom to see him almost every day. Then the house next door to me came up for sale. I told mom, if you're willing to sell your beautiful dream retirement home, much larger and nicer than mine, and purchase the house next door, we can bring dad home because I'll be right next door to help. They did just that. Was it easy? Checking in on them every morning and evening, and sometimes coming home at lunch to make sure they ate, keeping the phone by my ear at night so I could run over if they called. No, it wasn't easy, but that's what families did back then. That was the social dynamic. Today, of my 5 children, only one, my son, even lives in this state. He lives more than 2 hours away and has 5 children of his own, 2 of them with severe disabilities. Have you ever noticed more and more of our children's children have autism or other disabling disorders? In the 60s and 70s, only 1 in 2,500 children were born with it. Today, 1 in 36. Will your children have to care for a dependent grown child? How heavy would their burden be if they added the need to care for you? This definitely changes the social dynamic today. That's just one more of the changes in the social dynamics that will affect your retirement. The traditional nuclear family we grew up in, mom, dad, and children of both, has almost evaporated. 50 years ago, traditional nuclear families with a male breadwinner were the norm, at least 50% of families. Today, according to Focus on the Family, it's less than 20%. This allowed the wife to care for their aging parents. Isn't the daughter always the one expected to carry the load? As a certified estate planner, I'm not an attorney, but we help families to plan for incapacitation as well as passing on their assets with the help of an attorney. This often involves creating a revocable living trust. We'll address estate planning in detail in a future newsletter. Just stay tuned. Often, the couple insists on naming their daughter-in-law or son-in-law as a successor trustee, even though the attorney warns against it. Of course, they make the final decision. They insist their children are happily married, no problems. Their daughter-in-law is their own daughter. Every single one who has done that has come back to change their trust because relationships have changed. The in-law is now the outlaw. How many of our children have a traditional nuclear family and the wife doesn't work? It's rare when we meet a family in our retirement and estate planning practice that all of their children are happily married, no divorces, no disabled grandchildren, no one in the family suffering from drug addiction. If that's your family, you are an anomaly. You are blessed. The worst part of the new social dynamic for retirement, we're not prepared for social isolation. No one puts these numbers in the retirement brochures. Suicide rates are higher among adults over 65, especially men who are disconnected and purposeless. High rates of depression occur in less than a year after the retirement due to identity loss. Social circles shrink rapidly after leaving the workplace, often unintentionally. Retirees are significantly more likely to experience cognitive decline without ongoing mental engagement. Remember mom's mantra, use it or lose it. I vividly remember my dad's mother, who rotated between grown children's homes. She sat in a rocker all day, staring into space with no relevant conversations with us, the grandchildren, or my parents, but she sure could scream at us kids. She seemed so old, but later I realized she was only 65. She had no purpose. Retirement is not an ending. It should be a beginning of a new chapter in your life With the new social dynamic of our time, we must prepare for it. And I don't mean just financially. If you don't prepare for a new chapter, it can become psychological death because something does die when you retire. Your old role, your old rhythm, your old sense of relevance. We see all the time that the people in our practice who thrive in retirement aren't necessarily the luckiest or the wealthiest. Many of our clients who are far from wealthy are living happier, more fulfilled lives than some who have a financially secure retirement and can afford anything they want. Why? There are clients who worked with us to mentally transition before the calendar forced them to. They asked themselves, who am I without my job title? What can I contribute now? What challenges me? Who needs me? What gives me my days meaning? I'm not trying to scare you, maybe warn you, maybe give you a wake-up call. I study aging, healthy, avoiding cognitive decline, and how to be productive and happy in our last chapter. If you're looking at retirement in the next 5 to 10 years, or are already in retirement, you may want to go back to issue number 1, where we discuss the 3 forces that have radically changed your retirement window today. Next week, we address a very alarming reality. Force number 3. The cyber risks and scams that can rob you of your retirement and perhaps even your identity. I look forward to connecting with you next week. P.S. I'll share not only my research, but also the new findings that come out every day with those who join our membership site, Retire Plugged In. Membership is not open yet, but keep an eye out for an opportunity to become a founding member. In fact, reply RPI to this email if you want to be on that list of the first to know.